By any reasonable standard, I spend way too much time on YouTube, and one of the only real benefits to spending way too much time on YouTube for years on end is that you get to observe different subgenres as they form, develop, and maybe even die off. The subgenre I'll be talking about today doesn't have an official name, at least as far as I know, but I'm going to call the category Ambience video. Sorry for going with that pronunciation, but I'm sticking with it, so there it is. Basically, these are long-form videos or live streams that try to achieve a specific mood, and that's it. There's no narrative content, there's maybe just a setup, or sometimes there's just an image that does most of the work. And as for sound, it's either royalty-free music or ambient noises. This has become a massive genre, not only in terms of the volume of the videos posted, but also in terms of view counts. People love this stuff. And even though I think some of this content can be incredibly lazy, I definitely understand why people keep coming back to it. I know you've seen these videos around, they're all over YouTube, and it might be impossible to track down the actual start of this video format on the site, but I think that most of us would agree that they really entered into the mainstream via the chill lo-fi beats to relax /study to videos, which spawned tons of imitators, both big and small. In fact, I don't even know if the ones that got popular at first were the originals. It's kind of hard to research this. Basically, what you got with these original lo-fi videos was an illustration of a girl sitting at her desk and studying. And of course, the music in the background is generally pretty bland, lo-fi instrumental tracks. It's meant to be a background video. You have some low-density music to listen to while you do something else or while you don't do anything at all. And the only visual you get was a still image, so it's not constantly drawing your attention. Still, the video would be nothing without this kind of image. A pleasant, appealing illustration that evokes a comforting virtual space. That sense of space is going to end up being crucial to the overall discussion here, but first let's talk about what happened next after this basic idea took off. Well, the internet did what it does very, very well. It appropriated a popular thing and adapted it in a million different ways and with varying levels of success. In certain cases, rapid iteration on a popular idea, especially online, can lead to homogenization. Something that was once special is copied so many times, often with only minor tweaks, that it stops feeling special after a while. And there are absolutely plenty of ambiance videos that are just cheap, uncreative, or maybe even stolen from another channel, or the idea was clearly taken from another channel. And still, they rack up millions of views a lot of the time. But I'm happy to report that this base format has led to some genuinely creative and hyper-specific adaptations. One of the common changes I appreciate the most is the inclusion of animated background images instead of just static images. The animation work isn't outstanding or anything, but it does add life to the scene and it makes these videos more appealing, especially if you're putting them on a big screen rather than like your smartphone. And since so many of these videos are set to playlists of instrumental music, we might be tempted to just call the genre illustrated playlists or something like that. But of course, we also have to consider the ambiance videos that don't have any music at all. These other videos serve a similar purpose. You put them on in the background to help you focus or relax or even fall asleep. Ambient sounds of wind or rain or like ocean waves don't stimulate your brain in the same way that music does. And once again, these videos can either be standard and basic or incredibly specific and creative. In fact, let's have some fun and just take a look at some of the kind of insane ambiance videos that I've come across. Star Trek, TNG, Warp Core plus ambient engine noise for 12 hours. I'll lie in the attic and watch it rain. Oldies playing in the car and it's raining. Cyberpunk bartending beats to relax and mix drinks to. Café LeBlanc, coffee shop ambiance, smooth jazz persona music, and rain to study, relax, and sleep.
Ah, you're back.
Ambient and relaxing Silent Hill music with rain ambiance. Cursed house, horror ambient music, door squeaks, spiritual sounds, thriller horror sounds, lightly sinister Halloween ambiance, witching hour candles, suspenseful night sounds ASMR, witchcore, autumn forest, good witch cabin, cats, herbs, light rain and soft music, magical fairy forest, enchanting flute music, avatar music and ambiance, Pandora at night, bioluminescence, forest sounds, and occasional rain, LOTR, a room in Lothlorien, 2 hours of kelp forest, to study, relax to, You're a Royal, falling in love in an ancient Asian kingdom, Swan Lake playlist, be the main character, because you're a princess, playlist to give you the feeling of falling in love with Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice, admiring your soulmate from afar, songs you hear in your head at the last moment before dying. I don't know if that's funny. A playlist for those who are slowly losing hope. That one's not funny. Sacrificing your last breath for that one person. Playlist. I think you get the idea. There's a huge heap of this stuff, and the view counts are outrageous, like consistently, regardless of whether they're coming from channels with 1 million plus subs or tiny channels in the neighborhood of GL. It's safe to say that people really, really like this stuff. And I like it too, at least in a general sense. I love the idea of creating an atmosphere with a minimum of assets and or technical ability. I like the amount of variety that creators have been able to deliver. And I don't blame specific channels for basically sticking to one style or atmosphere and just doing that again and again and again. Nemo's Dreamscapes, for example, focuses pretty much exclusively at this point on videos evoking a sense of borrowed nostalgia. I would have to imagine. I don't think the elderly are watching these, but who knows? And they often get hilariously specific about the year in which each video apparently exists. This one takes place in 1946. This one takes place in 1947, and this one takes place in 1949, for some reason. I also don't mind the videos that attach themselves to a specific media property, like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or anything else, because in a lot of cases, they're not actually using copyrighted material, just other images and music that will evoke the tone of those works. But I don't just want to offer my appreciation for this subgenre. There's more to talk about here, and one of the most interesting questions we can ask is why these videos are popular. So I love talking about and thinking about and studying different spaces, including virtual spaces. We all have our own highly intuitive reactions to any space that we're inhabiting, whether it's a bedroom or a parking lot or an office or a video game or a movie or even a website. All of these spaces can offer their own distinct moods, and those moods play a big part in our decisions to inhabit or not inhabit each space, and also just how we feel when we're in them. Even just within the context of media criticism, this is something I talk about a lot regarding animation. Animation has the ability to offer a greater variety of fictional spaces for the audience to inhabit, and thanks to art direction and other creative choices, the range of moods achievable by those spaces is enormous. And of course, in real life, the desirability of a particular space has a direct relationship to monetary value. So extremely desirable interior spaces are typically reserved for the wealthy, and the value of these spaces is amplified by the sense of exclusivity. Just think of like gated communities or high-end housing developments in locations that are very difficult or illegal for the average person to access. With that in mind, Ambience videos offer a huge variety of virtual spaces to inhabit, and since they're hosted on YouTube, they can be accessed by anyone with an internet connection. Are these Ambience videos going to be as effective at conveying spaces as a virtual reality environment or even a real environment? Of course not, but the price is right and the accessibility is top-notch. Okay, but why would so many people want to inhabit these kinds of spaces that are being offered by Ambience videos? Well, there are a good few that offer a kind of sensory tourism, we could call it. For example, the videos I mentioned that focus on like creepy vibes or haunted houses. Those have a similar appeal to horror movies or other online creepypasta content where it's stimulating for a bit, but it's not really something you want to get into for long-term enjoyment. But based on what I've seen, the vast majority of Ambience videos focus on various types of comfort. So why do so many people go to these videos for a sense of comfort and security? Well, I feel like that's obvious, but sure, we can talk about it. So in a broad sense, these are just nice, warm, fuzzy feelings that people find enjoyable. Comfort media, in other words, media that someone is very familiar with, has a generally light tone, that can provide similar feelings. But here's the thing about narrative entertainment. It almost always contains a range of emotional tones within a single work, and almost all of it includes varying amounts of tension. This stuff is built into human storytelling traditions. But if someone is specifically looking for an instant mood boost, they probably don't want to experience tension at all. Ambience videos, on the other hand, are non-narrative, even if some of them offer some suggestion of narrative through their titles or their imagery. So in other words, it's okay for them to just offer one consistent tone throughout. In an abstract sense, pulling up one of these videos is almost like going to the store and buying a bottle of pills that will deliver one specific emotion for a set amount of time. And apart from providing a specific emotional tone, some of these videos instead seem like they're trying to validate certain emotions that the viewer is already experiencing. They're trying to be as relatable as possible to a certain audience. Of course, another reason why people would want a comforting mood boost at the drop of a hat is that the world is kind of a nightmare, most, if not all of the time, and tons of people, especially young people, experience stress and anxiety on a regular basis, and not everyone is well equipped to effectively cope with these feelings. Ambience videos can provide a kind of barrier, especially if you're using headphones. They can be used to mask some of the sensory input of your real-world surroundings. And by the way, this is something I did myself for quite a long time. It was back when I was working a really terrible job, and when I was at work, I wanted to pretend that I wasn't at work, that I was somewhere that I actually wanted to be. So I would come into the office, start up my computer, and immediately put on my headphones so that I could listen to one of these kinds of videos while I worked. It wasn't about productivity for me at all. I didn't want to be productive. I didn't care about the work that I was doing, but blocking out my surroundings in this small way usually made me feel a bit better. Now, was this a healthy solution to the extreme stress that I was feeling at work every day? No, it wasn't. It was essentially a temporary band-aid solution that made it possible for me to make it through another workday. And that leads to another important question. Are ambience videos potentially a bad thing for viewers who are specifically using them to cope with difficult situations? Well, that's another question I'm not qualified to answer, but I will share a quick comment that I think is safe and reasonable enough. If you're relying exclusively on content like this to manage your stress and anxiety, you should definitely consider reaching out to someone, whether it's just a friend or even a healthcare professional. That's a good idea in general, just to check out what your options are. But still, as a very simple, easy way to relax a bit and slow down your thoughts temporarily, there are definitely worse options out there. And I should also mention that the comments and live chats I've seen in a lot of these videos and streams have been extremely positive. And assuming that these are real people and not bots, then that's great news. Not every ambience video is creative. Not every one of these videos is well made either. But across the scene as a whole, there's a lot to love, and watching the subgenre develop over time has been fascinating. Now, where there's money, there's trouble, so it's definitely possible that there's some shady stuff happening within the subgenre, and if I find out about any of that, I will go ahead and talk about it. But for the moment, I'm really enjoying what ambience videos have to offer, and if you haven't already taken the dive, you should give this stuff a look. And that brings us to the end of the video. As a thanks for watching the whole thing, here's this. But that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by.